Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So on today's video, guys, I've got a triple Addiesdive unboxing. I haven't touched too many Addiesdive in the past. I have reviewed one of their watches about 2 times, I believe. It was 2 different versions. And I've actually got the latest version as well. So I'll show you that one. And I'll actually review that piece. But the other two are just going to be unboxings. And like usual, I'll give you a once over, take a look at the watches, some specs, dimensions, prices, etc. And then we'll put them away to be revisited for the full review. Now, while I unpack all these watches, get all the stickers off, I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm actually going to address a question. So one of the questions that I had on my latest post on Addiesdive, it was a tuner that was around £70, which was ridiculous. And it's a very interesting question / comment, so let's feature this. So the question goes, hey bro, I have heard several times that the Steeldive brand is the master and lord and king of Addiesdive, since Steeldive watches are totally superior in construction and materials than the Addiesdive brand, and Steeldive is also more expensive than the other. What do you think about that? So it's an interesting question. I don't know where this person heard that. So my simple response was, nonsense, bro. I just like to keep it straightforward. The like-for-like models between Steeldive and Addiesdive are the same. Addiesdive more than likely uses the same factory. Steeldive may on occasion use better dial or hands, more Lume, but that's about it. Now, just to slightly expound on that situation, and even the comment by Addiesdive may have better QC in my opinion. The thing is, from a consumer to watch reviewers, we handle 10 times the amount of watches that your normal average watch consumer does. Where you get one Addiesdive model, we'll get 50, right? So Steeldive, in the early days, I did buy a lot of them. I was selling quite a lot of them, so I had very good hands-on experience with Steeldive watches. Now, my impression of Addiesdive, they were a copy brand of Steeldive. Now, two things could have happened. They could have contacted Steeldive to say that, make us watches, but use our logo, because the logos are very similar, or they went to the same factory as them. Now, Steeldive watches are very, very cheap. They're the same price as Addiesdive in terms of cost. I've got no doubt about that, because if you look at the Captain Willard homage, when that initially came out on AliExpress, it was £120. That has gone down to like £70 or £60, which is ridiculously cheap. Now, I've looked at plenty of Steeldive models, the Tuner, the 6105, the Sumo, and these are naming just some of the better ones in my opinion. Also the MM300, and between those two, Addiesdive and Steeldive, there's no difference between them. Okay, the case is exactly the same, finishing is the same, and as I said in my question, the only difference where you might find a slight difference is maybe the type of handset, maybe the type of lume, maybe the type of dial, but for the most part exactly the same. Little things like, I don't know, bracelet end links or like clasps, but on the whole there literally is no difference. Steeldive isn't that superior because Steeldive have their own fair issues, believe me, I know that. If anyone's got that notion, yeah, there's no notion like that. And as we all know, that's one of the problems with homage brands on AliExpress, that most of them use the same factory and just rebrand the dials. So hope that helps. Now let's get to the watches. So here we have the 3 new Addiesdive models. Now one of them isn't new. Let's pick that one up first. So this Addiesdive, I'm hoping you guys remember, I reviewed 2 of these watches previously. Same case shape, and both times they've changed the bezel style, should I say, and also the dial setup. And this is a Vaer homage. That's the closest watch I can compare it to. So this is the one I'm going to review for you guys today. Now this one is priced at £115. Specifications, you've got a tabletop or a top hat style sapphire crystal, you've got a ceramic bezel insert, 120 click unidirectional bezel, 200 meters of alleged water resistance, and this runs the Seiko NH35. Now the one to my right is a very new release from Addiesdive, and this is actually Quartz, as you can see that second hand giving it away. Now this is the AD2036. Price is up on screen, £74, ridiculous value for money already. It uses the Swiss Ronda 515 GMT movement, and this has an AR coated mineral top hat style crystal with alleged 200 meters of water resistance. As you can see, it's full steel. So we'll give this a once over once I've introduced the other watch that we're looking at. Now this is the Addiesdive AD2029, coming in at £82. 39mm Explorer style watch, runs a Seiko NH35 movement with a bubble or top hat style mineral glass with AR coating, 100 meters of alleged water resistance. Now I want to touch on this one because my last video I did on an Explorer homage was the Cadison, and I mentioned there that I'm done with reviewing watches which are basically just like for like, churned out, looking exactly the same as many other counterparts. Now, am I being hypocritical here with this one? Not at all, because I think this is different enough. It uses a 5-link bracelet. It also has a very slim profile on that bezel. And also the main thing is the dial setup and the handset used. So you've got the Dauphine style hands, and you've got these very sharp angular hour markers, which I think does set it apart from the majority of watches. Now, the price also being just under £100, coming at £82, this is a very good contender, even with the mineral glass aside. So with regards to this, I mean, the bracelet, you know, they're not going to be that amazing. It's a 5-link bracelet. It's your standard stuff. I mean, more like Seiko quality when we had the SKX 007s. But the notable feature on this watch would definitely be the clasp. They have improved their clasp. You've got a very sharp Addiesdive logo etched onto there, which, I mean, there's, you know, you either like it or you don't, but it is, yeah, a very complicated logo, a lot going on there. But the clasp is beautiful, nice and slim, great brushing, polished bevel edges, around what, the 5 micro adjust and milled internals. So looking at this already, going back to the question that I answered at the start of the video, I mean, it doesn't seem that Steeldive is, you know, the king of Addiesdive at all. I mean, on some of these watches, looking at just the build in general and the clasp bracelet, I'd say they're better than Steeldive, because I have seen the newer clasps, and you know, it's took them 5 years too late to get those. But also, I mean, the bracelet quality seems to be better, and they're a bit cheaper. So you know, I think that kind of further proves the question asked. Let's actually give you guys a check on the dimensions as well. So the description states 39mm case, and yes, we are close to there. And these are, I mean, very quick, guys, just so I can save some time in the video. So just under 39mm, I believe, the way I'm measuring this. Thickness 13mm. Log to log is 48mm. So pretty usual dimensions on that one, and this is definitely a revisited because I really do like what I see on this one. Now, coming back to this Quartz GMT, let's give you guys again another one. So about female end links, yeah, it definitely does jump out there. The mineral glass, again, you know, a cost-saving exercise, bring this watch down to the ridiculous price that it is. Quite a bit of blue hue due to the AR coating, and I think on the mineral glass, it just shows up a bit more. The finishing on the case so far does look really good. Very nicely done case. Polished highlights, transitional lines are crisp. The crowns seems okay as well. Right, no issues there. Bracelet's fully brushed, polished side, split pins to hold it together, and they've gone for the same clasp used on the model we just looked at. So all in all, very good. I mean, that is a 16mm clasp. Looks beautiful the way that kind of finishes the bracelet off. Yeah, so that looks great as well. So let's check the measurements of this one. This is again going to be a 39mm case. Yes. Thickness at 12mm. Okay, and then log to log is around 48.5 with a 20mm log width. So good on specs, good on dimensions as well. You know, it's what we have seen from the rest. So again, we will revisit this, and the fact that, you know, they're using quartz movement is different. I do kind of rate that. We do have occasionally a lot of people just wanting quartz just for the accuracy. Now, I don't know too much about the movement, but it is going to be somewhat accurate over an automatic movement, plus the added benefit of that GMT. So we'll put this one away as well. So these two are going to get revisited in due course. The one we are looking at is the AD2105. I'll link the previous reviews that I did on these. And when I first had this in hand, you know, I did like so many things about the watch case. It had an incredible profile, you know, on this horizontal plane. The twisted lugs, the case shape was beautiful. The bezel was great. And it was a watch from Addiesdive, which, you know, they are a very budget watch. As I said, they copied Steeldive for the best part of a year or two. But coming out with this type of build quality, it was incredible. So now they did change styles a few times, and they never really got anything spot on. Now they've come out with this, which looks significantly better. It may remind you of the Certina DS watches. I'm assuming just down to that bezel, the way that looks. Yeah, very different. Textured dial as well, and you've got that red seconds hand, which does kind of stick out. Now, the first thing that I want to check on this, because the others actually do have stated that they use mineral crystal, and this one uses sapphire. So let's confirm that for you guys. I don't normally do this on camera, but let's give it a go. So that definitely is sapphire. Specs wise, yeah, NH35, 200 meters of water resistance, as we just covered that. Let's remind ourselves of the dimensions again before we go any further. So this is 40 mil in case diameter, 13.5 mil thick, and 46 millimeters lug to lug. And it's the lug to lug which is impressive. It makes the case look a lot smaller. Even though it's 40 mil, it will actually weigh closer to a 38 or a 39 just due to that lug to lug. So looking at this watch, you know, some of the things which I noticed which I really like, and let's address those things which were good on the previous models. So this one, the change that it has had is that top hat sapphire crystal. As you guys, if you remember, on the previous one they had a high dome crystal which gave it almost a UFO look on the side profile and this sort of angle. They've changed that to a tabletop, which does still look equally as impressive, and these crystals are a bit more expensive, which is why this watch is £115, which is not going to break anybody's bank. It still is very budget friendly. Now let's check the bezel, which I know was really good on the previous models. Great grip, great machining. Look at those little scallops, no sharp edges as well. 120 click. That is an exceptional bezel, lines up perfectly, no movement, no play, very solid build. And considering how thin that bezel is, it doesn't sound hollow, there's no rattle in it. It's actually a very good bezel coming from a brand like Addiesdive. Now the dial design, that's the main thing that we're looking at. As I said, they've sort of homaged the DS Tina look with all these sort of micro indications on the bezel and the dial. Is it too much? You know, does it give that aesthetic it gives? I kind of like it because I like the red that sticks out. It is a bit too yellow for me though. I understand that. Just too much yellow going on. Printed text on the dial, heavily textured dial, looks like asphalt. I'm not a fan of this texture. I know people love textured dials. I'm very particular about my textures. But with this, you can just see it's got this sort of like, you can see it's got this asphalt sort of texture, which who wants a dial which looks like the road? But anyway, yeah. Now the handset, I'm particular about the handset as well. So they've got a sword style handset, which is no problem at all, but it's brushed bronze and it's got a reddish hue to it or an orangey hue to it, and they kind of get in the way. Possibly a bit of an eyesore. I wish these hands were just plain silver or even black, because this bronze brushed finishing they've got is too much, right? It does stand out too much on the dial. Kind of takes away a little bit from the red seconds hand. The length of the hands is perfect. There's no problems there. A really good length. So just a bit of paying attention to these smaller things for these guys. And the bezel is good as we just looked at. Date window is centered, no issue with that right there. The crown is very smooth, very grippy. It's got this sort of bead blasted texture and finish. Case is still as brilliant as it was. You've got this, not even a polished, you've got a very finely brushed chamfer along the side. Really good definition to that case. Again, very smooth hairline brushing on either side of the case. Great curvature. Of course, as I said, it is homaging the Vaer in that sense. And it's a very solid and really well built case. Now, in terms of what are the negatives, well, one of the main negatives is going to be this rattly bracelet. I mean, I'm sure you can hear it as this watch moves around. Now, the whole case is fully brushed, so I don't see why they have used polished, center links on this bracelet. It's definitely a bracelet which does not match the case. And while I say that, bearing in mind that these end links are really well fitted into the case. There's no gaps there. There's no movement in there, so they do fit really well into that space. But it's a clear-cut mismatch. Now, when we look at the other models we looked at, much nicer bracelet, much more of a taper, and a much better clasp. This is still quite a bit dated from the collection. So for me, the bracelet does have to go. I wouldn't even spend time, brushing all this down. I might try and see if something else fits it, but again, why bother? They've also used the old clasp now, still fully stamped, very dated, of course, very cheap and nasty. So definitely I would get rid of that. Now, what I would say, if you want to stick to the bracelet, totally up to you, but definitely get a clasp with this watch. If not, just get rid of the whole bracelet, and I'll see what I have in my strap box to see if there's anything that will match this. So in my opinion, that definitely does look much better on this Pirate Trooper elasticated strap. Definitely looks much better. You do need a bit of red in there. I think khaki is a great match for this style of watch as well. So let's check out the Lume and then let's summarize on this video. So the Lume is somewhat decent. You can see it's a 14 Lume. You've got a blue pip in there as well. The bezel is lumed, but don't believe the picture they have on the site. Everything's just really blown out of proportion there. It's nowhere near that bright. You can see it's kind of faded on the bezel. There's a slight patchiness on the hour markers on the dial and also the handset, but we know it's a problem of this 14 Lume, and they're not going to put loads and loads of layers given the price as well, and also given the build quality of the watch in general, the crystal, the bezel, there has to be a bit of give and take somewhere. So the Lume is adequate, but not as bright as you'd probably like it. It's not punchy at all, but definitely visible, and let's just call it what it is, just adequate. Like what they've done for the most part, still not there, but this is what we're here for, to review these watches so you don't have to make any mistakes. But if you still like it, definitely go ahead with it. So make sure you guys subscribe, because I've got to come back to you with reviewing their GMT Quartz watch and also this Explorer homage with a very different look on the dial. So thanks again for watching, and I will definitely see you in the next video.